Azran here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to today's live stream. I want to talk about how to boost vocabulary in another language. If there are live viewers that end up watching this live, you're also more than welcome to ask other language learning questions, and I'm happy to answer them for you. If you're new to my videos, hello, my name is Azran. I run a business called the Calgary Language Nerds. We teach a whole bunch of different languages. I myself am something of a language learning expert. It's something I have a deep level of expertise in. I speak 5 languages, and language learning has been a significant part of my life for, as I'm recording this today, 17 years. 17 years it has been, I would say, my primary personal interest. And then for 9 years, it has been basically I've worked in this field, working with different adults one-on-one and to help them become fluent in other languages. So let's talk about how to increase your vocabulary size in another language. So it's relatively straightforward. The biggest key to increasing one's vocabulary size is actually reading and listening. Reading and listening are your 2 most important things when it comes to increasing your vocabulary. Now, what do we read and what do we listen to? Well, the biggest thing I would say, it doesn't actually matter all that much, but there is 1 or 2 golden rules, I would say. Golden rule number 1 is that you need to be listening to material or reading content that is actually at your level. So I'll give you a classic mistake that I see people make. I'll see people who are a beginner, say in Spanish or English or French or whatever language, and they think that if they watch Netflix or watch TV in English, Spanish, etc., that counts as a form of study. And in my books, that just doesn't count. If you're a beginner, you can't be watching Netflix and expecting to use that as a way for you to learn. Now, some people, they're outliers. There are some outlier individuals who are able to watch Netflix, for example, as a beginner and learn from it, but that is an outlier individual. It's not something that works for the vast majority of people, in my personal experience anyway. And that's my very extensive personal experience, I would say. So the most important thing is to be listening to content or reading content that is actually at your level, okay? And second piece here, the second golden rule for listening and reading in another language, the second golden rule is that it should be something that is actually at least somewhat interesting for you. So whatever the content is, it should be at least somewhat interesting content. So aside from that, it doesn't really matter all that much what you're reading or what you're listening to. And these are some of the most important things to be doing when trying to increase that vocabulary size. Okay? Now, one thing that happens when people are trying to increase their vocabulary size is they don't know if they're getting better. They're reading and they're listening and they're like, am I getting better at this or am I not getting better at this? By the way, hello, people in the live chat. Sometimes the people in the live chat it's just so interesting. I don't know if they're bots sometimes, or if I don't know if they subscribe. I don't know where they find it sometimes. It's almost like they click it randomly and don't know what the channel's about. But anyway, hello. I'm not sure if there's anyone like that in the chat today, but often it's been that way. Hello, Steve Alicious. You're new. Welcome here. So this is a language learning YouTube channel. I talk about how to learn languages better and how to become fluent in other languages. That's what I talk about. So welcome. Thanks for being here. Today we're talking about how to learn new words. Learning new words is really important when learning other languages, and people have a hard time with it. So we're talking about how to do that. So when people are listening to content or reading content to increase their vocabulary, there are some common mistakes and common challenges that people face. Okay, so one common challenge is they don't know if they're actually getting better. They're reading, they're listening, they don't know if their vocabulary is actually increasing. So a simple solution for that is to do regular vocabulary self-assessments. Regular vocabulary self-assessments. Go on Google and you search vocabulary self-assessment for different languages. French vocabulary self-assessment, Spanish vocabulary self-assessment, Mandarin. You will find some. You'll find some. I've also created one as well, which I give for free. If you would like that, just email me, or just DM me or whatever. My social medias, you can find it pretty easily. Welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to send it to you for free. And you can use the one that I've created myself. Okay, so regular self-assessment is one way to always see if you're getting better, and that'll be a form of motivation because you'll see, oh, I actually know more words now. The other common mistake, oh, actually, one more thing. The other way you can track your progress with vocabulary is with an app called LingQ. LingQ or Link, LINGQ. Very simple app. The way it works, it's a paid app. It's something like $20 a month or $15 a month, something like that. And the way it works is like this. You copy a link from the internet, YouTube, a blog, a website, whatever you want. You copy the link, throw it in the app. It literally imports whatever you input in the app. So if you put a YouTube video, it's going to import the video into the app. If you take a blog post, it imports the blog post into the app. And then it has a built-in translator. So if you literally took this video and put it into the app, literally this one here, all the subtitles would show up, and you can click on all the words you don't know, and it's going to tell you what those words mean. So it's it saves time if you're reading and you don't know what words mean. It saves you a ton of time. Super, super useful. Now, what I love about Link, my personal favorite thing about the app, is that it tracks how many words you know, and it tracks how many words you've encountered. For example, I'm learning Mandarin. In my Link app for Mandarin, I think I have like 12,000 words that I've encountered, but I don't really know. And then I have another, roughly speaking, 12,000 words that I actually know. So I've seen a total of 24,000 words. I know approximately half of them. The other half, I've seen them, but I haven't actually learned them yet. So this is a really straightforward way to actually see your vocabulary score increase and to use that as a form of motivation. Okay, so these are some ways to increase your vocabulary and also track your progress so you can keep yourself nice and motivated. Now, another challenge that people face when it comes to learning new words in languages is they don't know how to memorize them. They think, how do I memorize all these words? There are so many, and I keep forgetting. It's really common for people to think, oh, I always forget words in other languages. Well, the biggest thing to realize here is trying to memorize words is the wrong thing to do. You don't want to try and memorize words. It's the wrong focus. Oftentimes, I can give you one example. It's like here's a good example. I was trying to fix a problem that I had with my foot. Okay. So I would always think in my head, how do I fix this foot problem? It's hurting. I can't walk very well. What's happening? Should I stretch my foot? Should I try to go to physio for the foot? Should I get acupuncture in the foot? Is it an ankle? Or more of my ankle, I suppose. But still, is there what's going on with my foot? And it was the wrong question. There was nothing wrong with my foot, really. The problem was my hip. The hip was causing the foot pain. So trying to fix my foot, my ankle specifically, foot, ankle, whatever, foot, let's just say, trying to fix that foot was the wrong overall approach. The actual approach had to be more focused on the hip. Now, what's the connection between my hip and learning vocabulary? Well, trying to memorize a bunch of words, that's just the wrong focus. It's the wrong focus. That's not what you want to focus on doing. Instead, focus on reading and listening and looking up words you don't know. Just focus on that. Just focus on reading and listening frequently and looking up words you don't know. Don't worry if you remember them or not. You will forget them all the time. I forgot the word for kitchen sink in French probably about 52 times, something ridiculous. I literally kept forgetting it over and over and over. I lived in France. There was a kitchen sink where I was living, and I would ask the people I was living with, I kept asking them, what's the word for that? What's the word? I kept forgetting every day. And I was living there. It was so immersive. You'd think I'd remember, but no, I didn't remember. I kept forgetting over and over and over. This is hyper normal. It happens to everyone. The thing that helps you remember eventually is constant exposure. Constant exposure does help you to actually remember words. It will help you. Okay? So it's not about trying to memorize them. It's just about that constant exposure. Here's a little interesting story for the math people or the data people that like data. Okay. So I found most of the time when I'm learning languages, I like data often, right? I'll actually track in a lot of my languages how many words I've encountered and how many words I actually really feel like I know. I've tracked it. Right now, I use my Link app to do that. But even before the app, I would do it just on paper. I'd write down literally every single new word I came across. I wrote it down in a notebook. And I would number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd have a thick notebook with like literally 600 words or something like that. And then I would quiz myself regularly to see how, not regularly actually, I'd quiz myself occasionally to see how many of the words I actually remembered. I'd cover it with the hand, be like, do I remember the Spanish word for dog? Yes. Do I remember the Spanish word for cat? No, I forgot. And I would quiz myself, right? Every 6 months or 3 months, whatever it was. And here's something I've noticed for me and also for other people too. It's not just me. I've literally met thousands of language learners, literally. And here's what I've noticed. People tend to remember approximately a quarter of the words they've encountered. So of all the words you've encountered, you forget 3/4 of them. You actually forget them. And I haven't really found any way to overcome that, really. Not really. So my strategy ends up being to encounter as many words as I can and keep trying to encounter as many words as I can. And by doing that, I know that roughly a quarter of the words that I encounter, provided I'm listening to content that's at my level, right? Watching stuff, reading stuff at my level, not just random Netflix. If I'm doing that, if I encounter lots of words that I'm going to forget most of them, that's just a reality, but I will remember roughly a quarter. I'll give one practical story for this. I have a beginner level in Ukrainian. And in my Link app, I've encountered, it's something like 15,000 or 16,000 words. Actually, that's not true. I've encountered just under 20,000 words. Of the 20,000 words I've encountered, I know, according to the app, approximately, I think it's 4,500. So that's 4.5 on 20. So you're looking at whatever that is, 20 something, what is that, 20%? So times 5. Yeah, it's a little over 20%, right? So that's about what I said. We remember roughly a quarter of the words we encounter. So my strategy for Ukrainian is watch stuff, read stuff at my level that I find interesting, right? It has to be interesting, at least somewhat interesting, at my level. Keep listening, keep reading, keep listening, keep reading. I'm going to encounter all these words all the time. Most of them, they're just going to be words that I encounter, but they're not going to stick. But a quarter of them are going to stick, and that quarter will be consistent all the time. So when there are 50,000 words I've encountered, I won't know all of them, but I will remember, 10, 11, 12,000 of them. And that's a lot. That's actually a lot. It really is a lot. So that's the strategy. It's not learn, a good example. My mom actually, she told me this really interesting story. She's like, man, my mom told me, I feel like I should study my French notes. Now, for context, she has an upper intermediate level of French. Okay. Now, at the upper intermediate level, the biggest gap that anyone has is vocabulary. That is the biggest gap. The number of words you know is the number one thing you have to try to increase when you have an upper intermediate level. It's not your grammar. It's probably not your speaking. It really is, I would say, number one gap in my perspective. No, I think that might just be true. For most of the time, for the upper intermediate speaker, I think it's pretty factual, pretty solid to say that vocabulary is your biggest problem. You have to, roughly speaking, double the number of words you know in order to reach an advanced level, something like that. Okay. So that is the number one problem. Now, my mom was telling me, man, I really should review my notes. I need to review my notes. And I said, why? And she said, it's because I'm forgetting all these words. And I said, how many words are on your notes? She's like, I don't know, maybe like a couple hundred. I was like, okay. So there's a couple hundred words there. If you review them, I was like, how many do you think you know? She's like, probably half. I was like, okay. So if you review them, you can learn at most 100 words. She's like, yeah, maybe. And I was like, cool. There are probably something like 10,000 French words. I'm making a number up, but roughly maybe 10,000 French words you've never even encountered before. Why don't we go try to find those words? That's actually far more important. Who cares about the 100 words in your book that you forgot? Who the heck cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's 100 words here. You need to learn 10,000 that are over here that you haven't even, you don't even know that they exist. You don't even know that you don't know them. That's the bigger problem. That's what you have to actually, that's the big thing. What you should do instead is go encounter those 10,000 words or whatever number, depends on your level, of course, but go encounter this massive number of words you don't know by reading and listening to content that's at your level, right? That you find at least somewhat interesting. Encounter them. You'll now have seen them. You'll forget 7,500, but you'll remember 2,500. Remembering 2,500 is way better than reviewing your notes and boosting your vocabulary by 100. Duh. Obviously, no duh, right? So that's that. Now, for vocabulary, is it only about reading and listening? Is that all you have to do? Not exactly. Not really. It's very important, but there's one more thing. There's probably one to two more things that are incredibly important apart from that reading and listening to increase your vocabulary. And that's the speaking and also possibly writing. Speaking and or writing, let's just say, depends on your learning goals. If you're not really, most people are learning a language to speak. Although if you're not, maybe you just want to do the writing instead. It kind of depends. But anyway, the point is, when you do lots and lots of listening and reading, but you don't do any speaking, you could end up in a position where you understand very well, but you can't speak very well. Or you understand very well, but can't write very well. That's entirely possible. I'll give you one example of that. Me, for example, let's take Ukrainian. I'm a beginner, right? Even in Ukrainian, where I'm a beginner, initially I was just doing lots of listening and reading. I wasn't talking at all. And I remember this happened about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I tried to talk out loud. I tried to do some speaking. I was like, well, let me see if I can. It was so hard. It was so hard, really difficult. And it took me 3 weeks. I'm doing daily speaking in Ukrainian, not very good, but daily speaking in Ukrainian. And that's been helping. So now it's coming a lot easier than it did 3 weeks ago. Now, by doing daily speaking, did I boost my vocabulary significantly? Is that why it's easier? No. It's because it's all these words that are in my head that I'm now practicing getting out of my mouth, something like that. So in short, if we just do a summary of this video, let's summarize the past 17 minutes already. Let's really do a summary, okay? By the way, thank you for the 16 people. Well, I guess 9 people now, but 9, 10, roughly 10 to 20 people that have been watching this live. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So let's summarize. You want to increase your vocabulary, right? You want to learn more words. Number one, you got to read stuff that's at your level and that you find interesting. Number two, you got to listen to stuff that you find interesting and that is at your level. You want to look up words you don't understand as you listen or as you read so that you're able to comprehend what's happening. It'll be helpful as well to regularly track your vocabulary increases. You can do that with an app such as LingQ or Link, depends on the pronunciation, LINGQ. You can do that with online vocabulary estimators. You can also use the vocabulary estimator that I've created. Okay, just email me, DM me, whatever. I'm happy to send it to you. It's free. So that'll help keep you motivated. Now, you also want to make sure that, again, to summarize, we also want to make sure, I lost my train of thought. Oh, no. Oh, yes. We also want to make sure that as we're doing this listening and reading, the focus is not necessarily on memorizing all these words. You're not trying to cram all these words into your brain. It's just about the exposure. It's about that natural exposure. That's what matters most here, right? And the last piece of the puzzle, as we talked about today, is about it's just about that, the speaking and the writing. You do want to actually use it in some form of output, not just input. So we can wrap this up here. If you have any, for the people that are watching live, if you have any language learning questions on vocabulary or really any topic, you're welcome to type them in and I'll answer them. I'll wait maybe 30 seconds. If no questions come through, we'll wrap this video up. If you have a question, happy to answer. I wonder, did we get any legitimate comments today in the chat? It's quite funny. Sometimes there are legitimate comments in the chat, in the live chat. Sometimes they're just ridiculous, spammy kind of comments. I think we might have gotten one from Steve Alicious. I am new. What is happening? That might have been the only actual comment that was real today. Everything else, there's something on your forehead. Can I get a shout out? Like all that? No, that wasn't. So, all right, let's wrap it up there. Looks like there's no questions today. Which is fine. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate your attention as always. And we'll chat later. Bye-bye. See you.